I have spent years perfecting my gaming house. So imagine then my disappointment when I found out that Kenton not only beat me to it, but built it better than I could have dreamed. And here I am in Austin, Texas, where everything is bigger, to take you guys on an exclusive tour of LANparty.house, the ultimate gamer house for you and 22 of your closest friends. Everything about it is mind-blowing, from the hideaway gaming rigs to the dedicated cat bathrooms to the floor panels that lift up to reveal an arcade's worth of DDR dance platforms. And Kenton and his wife Jade spent their entire Saturday taking us around so we could dive deep and give you guys some inspiration for your next gaming space, along with some helpful what not to do's and some helpful segues to our sponsor. NetData. Monitor your company's infrastructure in real time and catch issues fast with live dashboards and alerts, whether you're at your desk or on the go. Sign up today and get 10% off using our link in the video description. In fairness to me, Kenton did have a bit of a leg up when it came to designing the ultimate gamer house. I mean, for starters, his dad is low-key kind of a big deal in architectural design. And for another thing, this is actually V2, borrowing many ideas from his original LAN party house, but iterating on them, both in terms of refinement and in terms of scale. For starters, he used to have monitors at each station mounted to rails that would lift up to display artwork whenever they weren't in use. Only he realized that he never once used them for that. So he devised a new system where they hide away completely. The grown-up playroom consists of a total of 12 completely invisible and inaudible gaming setups. All you have to do to deploy one is open the bottom cabinetry and fold down the tabletop. And that's it. For extra gamer cred, these 32-inch Corsair Xeneon 4K 144Hz monitors are mounted with low-profile articulating mounts so you can pull them forward and, oh yeah, get in the zone. Or, well, as long as you have peripherals, which he thought of. Every station includes a keyboard and a mouse and, okay, this is a bit of an odd choice, a sound bar. I asked about this, and Kenton explained that they mostly play co-op games like Deep Rock Galactic, and they find that the advantage of being able to yell across the room at each other outweighs the disadvantage of sound bleed. And of course, anyone who wants can plug a headset into the provided USB hub or integrated 3.5mm jack. Speaking of plugging in, this is a nice touch. The original house had the power outlets directly behind the monitor, which is symmetrical, but makes plugging things in a bit of a pain in the butt if you bring your phone or some random other peripherals. I think the only thing that I would change here then is to maybe add a desk pad? LTTstore.com. Above each station is a cupboard for snackies, which, Kenton, you might want to restock, because I understand you've got company coming in a couple of hours. They actually arranged to have a LAN tonight so that we could see everything deployed and maybe even get a couple games in before we have to drive up to Houston. Of course, desktop PC gaming is just one kind of gaming. What about the 98-inch Samsung elephant in the room? Well, for the more PlayStation inclined, there's a PS5 hooked up to a Marantz AV receiver and a 5.1 electrostatic speaker setup. And I gotta say, I absolutely love the thoughtful design of the built-in console up here. Unlike my setup, the front outlets are actually reachable, making charging your lapboard or your controllers a piece of cake. Speaking of controllers, storage for them is built into the 4 La-Z-Boy powered recliners at the back of the room. By the way, love to see that old school Xbox 360 wireless dongle. Look, if it works, it works. I do have a couple of notes, even angled toward the seating position. Ceiling mounted is not really ideal for rear speakers, and some acoustic materials on this cabinetry would go a long way towards improving the surround sound experience in this room. With that said, it sounds like most of the content that Kenton listens to in here is stereo mixed music anyway, and that is where these come in. Oh, it's heavy. Ugh. Embedded into the concrete slab of this house are 4 DDR dance platforms from L-Tech. Kenton, like me, is a big games for exercise guy and says he tries to use these about every other day to keep up his cardio fitness. Now, at this time, he hasn't actually gotten all 4 working at once yet, but it was a lot easier to put in the conduit for all 4 now, and then hope the software would get easier to use later, rather than adding more conduit after the fact. And besides, how boring would life be without a few dozen items remaining on your never-ending house project? Oh, speaking of conduit, remember how I said that the gaming systems were inaudible? That's because I am officially not alone. Beside the grown-up playroom is what Kenton's HVAC contractor called, by far, the biggest server rack I've ever seen in a residential building. And while yes, it does in fact have a small AMD EPYC actual server in the server rack for AI tinkering and a persistent Minecraft instance for the kids, the vast majority of these rigs are identical gaming systems that power every station in the house. Now, since rack mount gaming hasn't taken off yet, solidarity, Kenton ended up hosting a good old-fashioned PC build party with some of his old LAN buddies, and they put all 20 of these together over a couple of days. They're fairly modestly spec'd considering the overall LAN house budget was somewhere in the 7-figure range, but I think Kenton mostly achieved his stated goal of hitting the price to performance sweet spot while keeping the systems easily manageable. On that note, none of these use local storage. Instead, all of them boot from a single network image on that server that allows games to be installed on all of them simultaneously, that allows them all to be kept up to date easily, and allows them to be quickly factory reset in the event that a guest bungs something up. By the way, he's got a GitHub repo with all of the quirky workarounds that he had to use to make this setup work. That would have come in handy for us recently.
Why?
His only major regret is the motherboards, whose onboard 10 gig network cards struggle sometimes when booting over iSCSI, leading to the occasional crash. Guests are going to be here in less than half an hour, by the way, so guess we get to go through the boot sequence? You want to show us how to fire it all up?
Sure.
What, that's that easy? You just press the button? Okay, that's pretty cool. Wake on LAN, kind of magic. I assume it's Wake on LAN?
Yep.
Now, there are some disadvantages to not having hardline power buttons to all the stations, and he had an idea for like a network attached USB hub of some sort with like relays or something so that he could power cycle them in the event of a crash, but hasn't gotten to it yet. Overall, I love this design. I mean, sure, he can't dump his waste heat into his pool, but by going with taller 4U cases, he also doesn't need to resort to water cooling to deal with all of this heat. He just lets the cool air fall down in front of the racks and then blasts all the hot air out into his hot aisle in the back where it can be picked up by the air handler and rinse and repeat. Apparently, by the way, at full boom, this rack can suck back about 15,000 watts. Thankfully, most games don't push it that hard, and Kenton has a large solar array that in February generates around 75 kilowatt hours a day, so I guess that takes some of the sting out of it, but for those wondering, yes, a lot of power, and also a lot of networking. Let's talk about that. A full Ubiquity setup might seem a little overkill for home, but hey, if you got the budget for it, boy is it ever nice. The AI object detection in their PoE cameras helps Kenton sleep soundly, alerting him if anyone approaches the house unexpectedly, and all of these systems are wired up for 10 gig networking with PoE all over the house for cameras and Wi-Fi. Kenton acknowledges that most setups at this scale would probably use a patch panel and would probably benefit from better cable management. But as a software developer, he says he just plumb wasn't familiar with them, and the RJ45 terminations directly into the network equipment hasn't really bothered him. I am going to pipe up with one other note, by the way. A 208 volt network monitored PDU probably would have been a good choice rather than a pillar with power plugs in it. Maybe a battery backup? But if I'm being realistic, for periodic gaming parties, this is probably fine. Like me, Kenton is using fiber optic DisplayPort cables to go from his systems to his monitors all over the house, and he's been really happy with his Monoprice Slim cables. The longer runs to the upstairs are apparently working great and are like 100 feet. But unlike me, Kenton is using fiber optic USB cables to powered hubs for his peripherals, and he says sometimes these can be a little flaky, but they are much more affordable than Thunderbolt or Icron docks. Coming back out of the server room, we didn't really show the Tinker Space yet, and there's a bunch of cool stuff in here. Old Nintendo Power magazines, a broken Dell 8K monitor, and I love this touch. All of Kenton's systems, other than his personal Debian Linux development workstation, are named for Mega Man bosses and have static network assignments that correspond to the boss's numbers. So if you need to remember an IP address, it's as simple as consulting the Mega Man wiki. Flawless. The last room in the basement is not for people. Well, not for regular sized people anyway. Nope. The LAN house has not one, but 2 dedicated kiddie bathrooms with pet doors and 24/7 negative air pressure outdoor venting in order to keep litter and litter smells out of the rest of the house. This also happens to be where Kenton keeps his trophy that he won for arguing on the internet. Good job. Moving up to the main floor, what about second giant TV? This one's not quite as big, but given that it mostly gets used for Animal Crossing and duck game with large groups, I guess that's probably okay. At least for now. Since he had the opportunity to design and build the place from scratch, Kenton put conduit everywhere. That means that in the long term, nothing would prevent him from running cables down through the back of this and running this off of a PC in the server room. By the way, since we're in here, I love this. If you look closely from now on, you're gonna notice that everywhere that a normal house, or even a gaming house, would have had 1 network port, Kenton put 4. That's because the price difference that the contractor quoted was only about 20%. So Kenton was like, okay, I guess I'll just put an access point anywhere I want. He apparently has like 8 or 10. He lost count. Surprisingly, the main bedroom is apparently pretty plain Jane, other than, of course, having conduit back to the server room, just in case. But the kids' bedrooms are amazing. First, there's this kiddie shelf in the family room that actually goes between them for late night visits from the cat, while still allowing them to close the doors for privacy. Then there's this incredible loft bed setup, and of course there's conduit back to the server room for when the kids are old enough to need powerful workstations. Should I be the one to tell them that they all just use Chromebooks now? I'm not gonna tell them. This drying rack is awesome. It's not gaming, but I thought it was cool, so let's head upstairs to the office. It's a little ironic that Kenton only moved here to be closer to Cloudflare's Austin office and now primarily works from home ever since COVID. But hey, at least he got this house out of it, and it's amazing, with this room being one of the best. The his and hers workstations here both use Samsung Odyssey Neo G9 monitors, which essentially are 2 4K monitors built into one and wrapped around you, and both have Kinesis keyboards for better ergonomics. Like any Dvorak user, Kenton pointed out that he uses Dvorak, but no, he does not actually recommend it because he has had to personally code utilities for multiple platforms now that automatically switch to a QWERTY layout when he holds the control key so that he can reach copy paste, for crying out loud. What he does recommend though is the ability to seamlessly move his mouse between his work tower and his personal machine using an application called Barrier. And because this monitor is super cool, it allows you to assign more or less of it to each machine depending on the focus of the day. That is actually a pretty strong argument for this thing versus 2 equally sized 4K screens. Great flexibility. There's also another TV in here, although it mostly gets used for music via Google Chromecast. And there's a boardroom table that, wait, no way, also converts into LAN gaming paradise? You have got to be kidding me! In total, that puts this room at another 8 gaming setups, all of which are wired down to the server room through a cable run that goes right down the middle of the table, like a regular conference table. That means no heat and no fan noise that's kicking out into the room from any of these, even with a full house. This space also gets used for tabletop gaming though, so keeping it thin was a priority. And keep it thin they did! Fun fact, by the way, Kenton designed this table himself in SketchUp and then had the cabinet maker bring it to life for him. Man, I gotta do more stuff like that. Then maybe I too would have a secret drink fridge in my home office. So cool! Literally. As for the rest of the upstairs, it continues to be gamer AF with a couple of call rooms with essential features like quad Ethernet ports and conduit down to the server room. The one has a treadmill so that you can be that guy on the conference call whose head is bobbing around. And there's also a couple of guest bedrooms, because occasionally folks will fly in from out of town for get-togethers and gaming parties, and it's nice to be able to accommodate them on site. Both of them, naturally, also have 3-inch conduit back to the server room and networking up the wazoo, but the thing is, when you're running optical display port or whatever, it's kind of necessary to have a big conduit if you want to get the connector through. Now, I noticed that Kenton, like me, irrationally put Cat6a absolutely everywhere, which is always a funny conversation with contractors who go, I mean, yeah, I'll take your money, but like, I hate working with this stuff. Are you sure you don't want to use Cat5e? Please?
IP address is...
The last major tech feature is an intercom system to the outdoor spaces, but they work about as well as my light switches at home for the time being. They're SIP phones, and Kenton hasn't learned about SIP infrastructure yet, so all they do for now is broadcast their IP address endlessly until you press the button again, which apparently the kids love to do just to troll him, so in the middle of the night he'll be like, is someone in our house? Shut up! All that remains then is to ask, how'd I do? I'm thinking of starting one of those like realtor YouTube channels where I tour the houses that I'm listing for sale. So this is kind of a trial run for me. Were you guys thinking of selling by any chance? No. I didn't tell them I was going to do that. I don't blame you. But I would blame you for not listening to this segue to our sponsor. NetData. Your company's infrastructure can be a massive spiderweb of interconnecting threads, each susceptible to deficiencies, or even worse, cyber attacks and data breaches. Well, NetData takes all those threads and brings them together into visually clear dashboards, giving you per-second insights on every connected system, container, or application. And thanks to the assistance of machine learning and AI-based anomaly detection, NetData can learn the patterns of your connected devices and use a unique scoring system to help spot security issues and identify the root causes of problems across your infrastructure. With over 800 plus integrations with other applications and exceptional vertical and horizontal scalability, it's built to grow the way your company does. It's also open source, competitively and transparently priced, and your company's data is always stored locally. They don't collect it, so they can't share or sell it. Sign up today and get 10% off using our link in the video description. If you guys enjoyed this video, maybe check out the time we did a LAN party in my entire house. It wasn't as slick, but I had way more people, so